down, power lines are down.
Message of 290 characters follows.
Hey guys, welcome into another episode of Grid Down Comms Up at the Bench. It is T-Rex weekend for the Amron annual T-Rex exercise. And kind of in some of the low spots here, while there's not a lot going on, I thought I would film a couple of different little videos with some bench tips and some other stuff that you guys might find useful. Today we're going to be installing a N connector, okay? A lot of folks don't know how to install their own connectors, don't have their own tools to install connectors, but I'm going to tell you guys a funny story real quick. So my friend Forrest Garvin, the founder of PrepperNet, is not participating in T-Rex today because his coax going to his antenna outside got pulled out of the connector when a tree limb fell on it, and he doesn't know how to change the connector. And he's waiting on a new length of coax to be delivered so he can get back on the air and participate, and that didn't arrive in time. So knowing how to install your own connectors allows you to do custom lengths of coax, it allows you to repair coax, allows a lot of stuff. So first we're going to talk a little bit about connectors here, and this is an N-type connector. There's lots of different RF connectors used in amateur radio. N is probably not as common as like the PL259, but I need to install an N connector today, so we're going to talk about an N connector. Any good quality connector should have a spec sheet like this that shows you the cable connector drawings, tells you the recommended crimp tool or die for each component. This one needs a 0.100 and a 0.213 for the little ferrule. It will also give you the stripping dimensions for your cable. If you're buying junk connectors, this won't be available for them, but any good quality connectors, RF Industries, Amphenol, Kings, etc., will all provide this kind of information for you that you can download about how to install their connectors so that there is no guesswork. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to need to strip our cable, approximately 2.8 millimeters of center conductor right here, and I take that back, approximately 4 millimeters of center conductor, and then another 3 millimeters of jacket, and then about 8.3 millimeters of jacket off of the shield. All right, the cable I'm going to be working with today, something you guys probably have never seen before. This is for a commercial application and some test equipment, so don't worry too much about that. It is very similar to installing a connector on anything else, except this stuff is silver plated and really fancy. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a piece of heat shrink over our cable, because this makes for a nice and neat finish that also protects our cable and offers a little bit of strain relief. We will have three parts to our connector. We'll have a connector body, we'll have a ferrule, and we'll have our center pin on an N connector, a BNC connector, that kind of thing. We're going to take our ferrule, we're going to put this on. It's important to go ahead and put this on first, because if you don't, it's a lot harder to put on after you start the stripping process, and you have to fight the shield to get it on. And this one's going to fit a little tight anyway, because this cable is just a touch bigger than most cables this size. So we're going to grab my ruler over here out of the workbench, and we're going to make a couple of quick little marks here, so we kind of have an approximation, because I don't have a factory tool for stripping this, so we're going to kind of do this the old school way, or the way most of you guys probably would have to do it. We're going to just do it with a knife and a pair of wire cutters. So first we need to strip back to the center conductor approximately 4 millimeters. So we're going to mark that at about 4 millimeters right there. And then I'm just going to take a knife and I'm going to strip this back. And I'm not going to do that on camera because I will end up cutting myself trying to hold this in front of the camera and everything else. So anyway, I'll be right back. Okay, it's important when you do this that you use a very sharp knife. I use a cable jacket knife actually here. And it's also important that you don't cut all the way through the jacket to the center conductor. We don't want to score that conductor and create a little bump on it. It'll cause it to break later. Can also cause some issues with the RF on the skin. So what I do is I'll cut about 90% of the way through. You get used to doing that by feel, and then I'll just kind of grab it with my fingers and I'll twist it until I break it loose, and I'll pull it off. And then hopefully I can get this to, we'll stick this behind here, see if we can get this to focus. You guys can see we have a nice cut and prepared cable right there with the center conductor, and we've also made sure that there's no loose strands pointing over and touching the center conductor where it can short. We'll verify that our center pin fits. You can see I trimmed mine just a touch too long, so we'll just take a pair of side cutters and we'll trim just a touch off this so that our center pin sets flush up against our dielectric. Okay, right like that. Not going to crimp it yet. We're going to go ahead and we're going to trim back, and I'm going to use my ruler here to kind of be precise. A fine tip marker would be better, but we're going to mark because we need to cut that back about 2 millimeters. So really we just need to cut back about that much. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that back. Again, I'm going to do this off camera so I don't cut myself, or at least part of this off camera, because what I'm going to have to do for this one is I'm just going to remove the outer insulation. Okay. And now I'm going to trim the shield back. And again, I don't have the proper crimp tool, or not crimp tool, but I don't have the proper wire stripping tool. So I'm going to tease the braid back, and then I'm going to take a pair of cable scissors and I'm going to just cut this extra braid off. Okay. We'll just go right around it, trim it off flush, center conductor. And if this ends up being a touch too long, you can always trim this later a little bit. We're going to take a really close look at this and make sure we don't have any of those little stray trimmy bits that are shorting anything. Yeah, trimmy bits. I made up a word here. All right, now we need our 8.3 millimeter section of shield. So again, I'm going to take my ruler. We're going to measure back approximately 8 millimeters. We're not going to be precise to the 0.3 millimeter, okay? And then I'm just going to take my cable knife, and I'm just going to carefully, because I don't want to cut my shield, I'm just going to carefully roll that around the cable, and then I'm going to kind of bend it a little bit to do the final little bit of cut through, so that, again, like I said, we don't accidentally cut some strands of our shield. So do that, and then I'll pull that off. Now we have, and I hit the tripod. Now we have our cable that is prepared for our connector. I'm just going to push back on the shield a little bit to open it up. Okay, like that. And then I'm going to take a little tool here, and I'm just going to tease it away from the center just a little bit. You see this is a double shielded silver plated cable. Like I said, not something you guys are probably going to run into a whole lot, but it's something that does show up in the test instrument world and whatnot. So now it's time to put our center pin on. All right, I drop your center pin on here. Some people like to solder these on, and you can do that. I don't suggest you do it on a stranded cable. If you do it on a stranded cable, the center conductor has a tendency to break at the back of the pin, which will cause you a lot of problems later. On a solid conductor like this, it really doesn't matter. It won't. I haven't noticed a huge increase in failures from doing that, but I won't do it on a I won't do it on a connector that is that's stranded, and especially in a mobile environment, that they tend to fail. So we've got our die loaded in our crimper here that has the 0.1, and I am just going to put this on our center pin here, kind of right towards the very back, like that. Make sure we are fully seated, and we're going to turn this so you guys can see. We're going to cycle our crimper. Okay. And now we have a nice solid crimp there. Okay. We got a nice solid crimp. Let me stick this back behind so it'll focus. You guys can see that. And we'll just give it the tug test just to make sure we didn't do something totally dumb. All right. Center pin's installed. Now, take this. We're going to push this on. There's a audible, well, it's not necessarily audible. Now we're just going to push the this on. This is going to make a click when it's seated all the way. It's not really an audible one, but you can feel it when it's all the way in, and it kind of grabs in that ring that was on there. And then we look, visually verify. We look at our center pin, and we make sure that it is seated all the way forward, okay? And it is. We don't want it to come too far forward. It'll cause us issues. We give it a little tug. We can see it's clipped in, all right? Now, we'll pull our ferrule up here, push it up over this. Sometimes I have a little trouble getting these up and over. So one of the things that you can do is you can take your crimp tool and just take your crimp tool, put it around the cable, not on the ferrule, because it's not going to hurt the cable, it's loose. But I'll take that, put it on there, and then I'll push the ferrule up over the shield with my crimp tool, kind of as a way to get it the rest of the way on there if it's kind of tight. You can see we got a little bit of extra shield sticking out here. So I am actually going to trim that off real quick. We'll just take a knife and we'll run it around here. If you have the proper crimp tool, this is not a problem. This goes way quicker, but I'm just going to kind of run this around here and trim that off so we have a pretty connector. Okay. Okay, guys. So took a minute to clean that up. So it looks like we gave a crap about the connector that we put on. Next, we're going to take our crimp die. I know that this one is a 0.213 because that is what is in my crimper die manual. So we're just going to put this on, get it right flush against there. Cycle our crimper. And now we have an installed connector. I'm going to take our heat shrink here, run our heat shrink up on this, and we'll give it a shrink with heat gun. All right, this is adhesive lined heat shrink, so I like to shrink it until you can see a little bit of the glue start to come out, form a ring there, so we know we melted the adhesive that is in it. That's how you install an end connector. If you don't have the proper strip, that is how you install an end connector if you do not have the proper cable prep tool. Most of us who are hams probably don't. If you work, then you probably have one. I have one for LMR 400 because that's what I'm usually putting connectors on. I don't put connectors on this type of cable very often, so I don't have one for it. So I had to kind of do it the hard way. Now you've seen an end connector. I'll try to shoot some on other connectors as I install them, doing different stuff, so you guys will get to see some other connectors put on. It's a skill that you really need to develop. So if you found this video useful, like, subscribe, and share. Thank you guys for watching. This has been another episode of The Bench on Grid Down Comms Up.